So I'm talking about alternatives to discontinued fragrances or badly reformulated fragrances today. Mostly discontinued fragrances, but there are a few that have been badly reformulated that really require a really great alternative for it. But the majority of these fragrances are discontinued. And today I'm going to talk to you about 14 different fragrances and their alternatives, awesome alternatives to replace that discontinued fragrance. Find out what they are, coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. Yesterday I'm talking about discontinued fragrances and awesome alternatives for them. As I said, most of these are discontinued. Some of them are badly reformulated. A couple of them are uncertain of the discontinuation, and some are just getting discontinued, so they're on their way out. But these are really, really great alternatives that will replace those discontinued fragrances. But before I get started, do you have a favorite fragrance that has been discontinued? And have you found an alternative for it? Let me know what the discontinued fragrance is. And if you have found an alternative for it, do let me know what that is as well. I'd love to find out to see how that works with the discontinued fragrance and their alternative. So why don't we go ahead and get started with the first fragrance. This is going to the house of Louis Vuitton. This is Sunsong. A very solar, fresh, citrusy, sunny fragrance, and it features the orange blossom with citron and musk. And it came out in 2019. It got discontinued last year, and many of you have been asking me, still get messages asking me where you can find a bottle of this, and unfortunately it's discontinued, completely gone. And it was launched as a trio of the fresh cologne style fragrances from Louis Vuitton, and along with the Sunsong they also discontinued the Cactus Garden. So since then they've launched a bunch more in that collection, but Sunsong is certainly gone. But I've got a great replacement for you. This from the house of Rochas. This is Eau de Rochas Citron Soleil. So it has citron in the notes. Citron is a type of a lemon, and of course in the Sunsong it was citron as a note. So obviously it's going to smell similar. And also the color of the bottle, as you can see, is sort of similar to, well, not sort of, it's actually really close to the original. So the smells are also very, very similar, but the notes have been changed around a little bit. This fragrance features notes of lemons, orange blossom, neroli, watery notes, so there's a bit of a watery effect here, along with some additional floral notes with rose as well. There's fig leaf, woods, white musk, and amber. So this is your alternative. If you can find it, get it. It might be a little tough to get because Rochas is not really distributed here in the States anymore. At least I haven't seen them. But eventually these end up at the discounters. You can buy them inexpensively because the series has ended up at discounters like the previous fragrances in this series, the Eau de Rochas series. So I think if you can find a bottle, get it, especially if you're looking for an alternative to Sunsong. I think it will do just fine. And this bottle is really, really cute, I think. It's really beautiful, and it comes in a nice little box as well. But yeah, Sunsong is completely gone. It got discontinued last year. And yeah, I mean, Louis Vuitton doesn't really discontinue too many fragrances, but they discontinued several along that time. And many of you have been asking me about the alternatives to some of these fragrances. All right, next fragrance, we're going to the house of Michael Kors. This is his very first men's fragrance, launched in 2001. One I wore a lot of that I really, really enjoyed. But at the time, in 2001, it was uber intense. A few sprays of this would fill a room big time. It's a tobacco fragrance, which I really, really liked. And there was a bit of booziness as well. This is the original Michael from 2001. I know it was relaunched mid-2010s. I don't think they were similar. I don't think they smelled similar. I smelled it. I guess distantly they might be, but it was different. But this version is all about tobacco with dried fruits. There's plum, patchouli, incense, sandalwood, and suede. So I haven't really found something exactly identical, but I do have something that's really, really close with the house of Pierre Guillaume. It's called Animal Mondain. The only thing is Animal Mondain does get a little animalic in comparison to the Michael Kors for men. But if you like that little animalic thing, definitely try this one. It features notes of pear tree leaves, Turkish tobacco absolute, mahogany wood, animalic musky notes, and so on. Yeah, it kind of is like taking Michael Kors for men and adding a bit of like the musk in Musk Ravageur. There's a bit of that kind of fuzzy animalic musk that's in Musk Ravageur or other fragrances like that moved into this. But to me, this stuff is really, really amazing. It makes for a great alternative for Michael for men, especially those of you that wore the original, and you can tolerate a little funk, a little animalic muskiness. Definitely Animal Mondain would do for you. It's really great. One of his best creations. Pierre Guillaume does some great work, and really enjoy that particular fragrance from that house. We're going to have a few Tom Ford featured in this video. First of all, we're going with the fragrance Plum Japonais, this one right here. So Plum Japonais came out in 2013 along with a couple of other fragrances. I believe it was Rive d'Ambre and Shanghai Lily. Both of those are gone. Well, obviously this is gone as well. I'm hoping that they would bring this one back. Most likely they will, but we're seeing if they're going to bring it into the signature line or will they launch as a limited edition private blend collection. We shall see. But it was a yummy kind of fruity, smoky, oody, spicy mixture of notes that I don't think it did very well, but there was devoted followers of this fragrance. And once it was discontinued, everybody was like, oh my God, I need to get a bottle of it. So I still get people asking me for an alternative to this, and the best alternative I can recommend is ATHENA Fragrances Smoky Plum. So it's not identical, but it's very, very close. It's also, it doesn't smell as luxurious as the Tom Ford, but it'll do because this stuff is really inexpensive, like 65 bucks for a bottle. So 100 ml of that versus however much this would be if they relaunched it in the private blend. So you do the math. But for me, it's a great alternative, I should say. It really does work just as long as you can tolerate the fact that it is less expensive and doesn't have the luxurious quality of the materials they're using. But for me, this one has similar notes. It's got this saffron, cinnamon, plums, oud, vanilla, smoke, and amber, kind of similar to the notes in Plum Japonais. But if you're looking for an alternative of Plum Japonais, definitely try Smoky Plum from the house of ATHENA. And I've got links in the info box to some of the fragrances. If you're looking to buy them, I've got links in the info box. So we're going with the first badly reformulated fragrance. This fragrance is still on the market. It's currently distributed by Revlon, and they don't really do a good job with fragrances. And we're going to the house of HALSTON from the 1970s. 1974 is when this launched. This is Z-14. So I know that Tom Ford Private Blend had a fragrance called Italian Cypress, which was a great alternative for this. It has been brought back recently, but I mean, the price point of that private blend is really, really expensive. $2,000 for 250 ml. But there is a better alternative and less expensive going to the house of ROJA Parfums. This is Apex, this one right here. Not identical, but similar. Very, very similar to me. And that's what I like about this one. It's got leather, it's got cinnamon, cypress, oak moss, lemons, patchouli, coriander. That's the original HALSTON Z-14. And then with the Apex, it's leather, balsam fir, cypress, orange, patchouli, ambergris, tobacco, and moss. So both of the fragrances are considered cheaper fragrances. This HALSTON Z-14 has a lot of meaning for me because when I first came to this country in 1980, both my dad and my uncle were wearing that fragrance, and I was obsessed with the way they smelled when they sprayed that stuff on. So this totally takes me back. The current version of HALSTON Z-14 is so watered down and diluted. This is a much more robust, luxurious take on what HALSTON Z-14 used to smell like. I know it's not a less expensive alternative because HALSTON Z-14 you can probably find for about 15 bucks, but it's a great, great alternative. So this is Apex from the house of ROJA Parfums, a great alternative for HALSTON Z-14. So one more badly reformulated fragrance going to the house of Paloma Picasso. Yes, Picasso's daughter. She used to have a perfume line. I don't even know if she had like full beauty, makeup and things like that, but I know she had fragrances for the ladies and for men. And one of my favorites from the early 90s was Minotaur right here. But this version, I think it's still under L'Oreal. L'Oreal had the brand like 5-6 years ago. This version is so badly reformulated. It's watered down, and right now for me, there's a faint reminder of the original scent, and it's just kind of like ambery sugar water. But the same perfumer for Minotaur, Michel Almerac, his son has a brand called Parlez-moi de Parfum where Michel Almerac creates the fragrances. And so we've got Wake Up World. It's almost like a redo of Minotaur. If you caught my first kit, I shouldn't say if you caught my first kit. If you caught my kit number 5, we featured Wake Up World in that kit. Currently, as the shooting of this video, there's only 12 kits left. So if you're in the market to find an alternative to Minotaur, there are some kits left. But for me, this is a great, more robust take on what the Minotaur currently smells like. And basically, it was kind of like a fresh amber, not a very dense, heavy amber, because it had a lot of citruses meshed with kind of the warm notes, and also fruity notes and a bit of rose and things like that. This is a really great fragrance. That's such a great fragrance and brings back memories of Minotaur, and that was one of the reasons why I decided to feature this in my Scent Club kit. So if you haven't tried Wake Up World as an alternative to Minotaur, definitely do it, because Minotaur currently is just completely like sugar water. Not really good. Okay, one more Tom Ford fragrance. We might have one more after this. No, I think this is the last one. But one more Tom Ford fragrance. This is a fragrance from the Green collection, or the Vert collection, where they had like 4 or 5 different Vert collection fragrances. They got the Vert d'Encens, Vert de Bois, which is this, Vert Bohème, Vert Fleur. Is there another one? I think it was just 4. When those came out, I think all 4 of those fragrances were really good. That's when Tom Ford was doing really great stuff. After that, you know, Fucking Fabulous and Lost Cherry came out, and it kind of went downhill after that. But Vert de Bois, man, it was so good. With this one, they had the poplar tree buds, they had olive tree, they had the ouzo accord and things like that. Really a great licoricey, anisey kind of absinthe kind of fragrance. Loved it. It was kind of mossy as well, very green and forest like. All 4 of them were great. Even Vert d'Encens was great, but my favorite was Vert de Bois. Currently, you can find a great alternative in Aesop's, or Aesop I should say, Eremia, this one right here from the other Topia's collection of fragrances. They're not similar notes, although they might be like overlapping notes here and there, but this is galbanum with iris and yuzu, and also they're not identical, but definitely will, you know, do for an alternative to Vert de Bois. I don't know if there's fans of it out there. It was my favorite fragrance in that Vert collection, although all 4 of them were great, with Vert de Bois followed by Vert d'Encens being my 2 favorites, and I think Eremia from Aesop will do just fine. Let me know if you're a fan of Aesop fragrances. Are you into the fragrances of Aesop? I know they got purchased recently by L'Oreal, so they are under a new parent company. But I really do enjoy the fragrances of Aesop, and let me know if you guys do as well. And as I'm going through the fragrances now, if there are other alternatives that you guys know of for the fragrances I've mentioned, do let me know what they are as well. I'd like to find out and check them out, because I know some are really close and some are not that close. So if there is something even closer to the original fragrance, I'd like to find out. But moving on to a fragrance from the house of Gucci, and I only have a mini bottle of this I should show you. I never really got the full 100 ml bottle because it was discontinued by the time I got into the reviewing fragrances game. It's Gucci Pour Homme 1. Here it is, a tiny little bottle. This was gifted to me by a friend in the community. There you go, Gucci Pour Homme 1. Once again, created by Michel Almerac. He created Gucci Pour Homme 1, and then he also created Bentley for Men Absolute, which is a great alternative to it. Gucci Pour Homme 1 was a dark, woody, smoky, incensey kind of woody fragrance, and it had leathery touches as well. But I believe it got discontinued pretty quick, and then Gucci Pour Homme 2 had launched, and that had a following as well, and that one's discontinued. But as a great alternative to Gucci Pour Homme 1, you've got Bentley for Men Absolute, and it's also very inexpensive here. You can pay like $34, $35, $40, $45, and you've got something that smells just like Gucci Pour Homme 1. But once again, it's got the cedar, the olibanum, which is the frankincense. There's spicy notes of pink pepper. Both of the fragrances had papyrus, which is giving you that kind of very authentic smelling note of a woody note of kind of something between patchouli and vetiver. And then, of course, you've got the oud and sandalwood in here as well. It's a dark, smoky, woody fragrance. This is Bentley for Men Absolute, which is a great alternative to Gucci Pour Homme 1. Tiny little bottle, but that'll be a collector's item until I can get myself a bottle of the actual thing in the large size. But those fragrances are going for pretty hefty prices, I think. Sometimes discontinued fragrances, when they get discontinued and there's no stock out there, prices do really go up. All right, the next fragrance I'm talking about, once again, is another ROJA Parfums fragrance as an alternative to a discontinued fragrance. This time going to the house of YSL. It's YSL Pour Homme, this one right here. This came out originally in 1971. This is the 2011 version of that, although it might be further later because it used to have a black label going across the bottle. Then they made it all clear. But it's a fresh, lemony, kind of a Chypre-esque fragrance that's really, really refreshing with lots of lemony, citric kind of touches. It was a very masculine, citrusy fragrance, kind of in the same ballpark as something like Eau Sauvage, because it came out like 4 or 5 years after Eau Sauvage came out. But a great alternative to that is either ROJA Parfums Scandal Pour Homme Parfum Cologne, or a more expensive version of it is the Parfum version of it right here, which is a lot more concentrated. The Parfum Cologne is a lot fresher, and it's basically freshening up the original in the Parfum version. And it's a very astringent, kind of a very citrusy take on a lemony fragrance with lots of aromatics and oak moss and things like that. So if you've been a fan of this one, I know this is more expensive, although this one is also pretty pricey. But I feel like they're great, great alternatives and very similar in style and smell when it comes to replacing Pour Homme from YSL. YSL discontinued a lot of their classic fragrances, unfortunately, sad. It started with the discontinuation of Rive Gauche, and then they started getting rid of a lot of others. Some of these might be available in France, definitely no longer available here. But Pour Homme by YSL is a great, great fragrance. And if you can't find it, definitely try ROJA Parfums Scandal Pour Homme, or you can try the Parfum Cologne version or the Parfum version. And then there's a fragrance by the house of Van Cleef & Arpels called Midnight in Paris. It came in a version of Eau de Toilette and Eau de Parfum. It was a fragrance that was very hyped during the time when I was first getting started reviewing fragrances, like 11 years ago. A lot of people spoke about it, and it was plenty of discounted fragrances at the discounters. All of a sudden, like 3-4 years later, it got discontinued, and then the prices went up. Now prices are really expensive, and also this bottle was really, really gorgeous, as you can see, really nice. And the name of Van Cleef & Arpels was right there. I believe this fragrance is created by Olivier Polge with another perfumer, but I think as a great alternative, not identical, but a great alternative for it would be Prada's Luna Rossa Black. I think it's powderier in comparison to that. This is a lot drier than Midnight in Paris also, but it's similar in smell. You can kind of pick up one over the other there with the smell and the different notes in there. But if you're going to break down the notes, they do have a bit of different kind of notes. But for me, I find that when I spray Luna Rossa Black, it gives the hints and reminders of when I was wearing Midnight in Paris. And Midnight in Paris, I don't pull out anymore because this is all I have. I have the EDP as well, unless this is the EDP. Either one, one's a lot stronger than the other. But when I wear the Luna Rossa Black, it just totally reminds me of Midnight in Paris, even though they're kind of different in the way they perform when you're wearing them and things like that. But either way, if you're looking for an alternative to Midnight in Paris, try this one. It's a Luna Rossa Black from Prada. I think it might do just fine. All right, this is a fragrance from the house of Maison Margiela. It's called Wicked Love, this one right here. And it's a great alternative for that would be Éloge du Vert by the house of Les Parfums de Rosine, this one right here. Who's familiar with these two fragrances? So this collection completely got discontinued several years ago from the house of Maison Margiela. And when both of these were on the market, currently Éloge du Vert is still on the market for sure. That's why I'm recommending it. But I remember when I first smelled this, I was like, dang, that smells a lot like a Wicked Love. And sure enough, they both use or utilize the notes of green bell pepper along with rose. After that, they go in a little bit of different direction, but for me, these two notes are prominent in both fragrances and they do remind you of one another, which is kind of great because if you're looking for an alternative for Wicked Love, definitely try Éloge du Vert. And it's basically a rosy fragrance with loads of green bell pepper. And for me, green bell pepper, when you're slicing into them, you can kind of get like a rosiness in there. Just really, really focus on the smell. You can kind of pick it up. For me, it's more like a stemmy green rose smell that's not really like bloomed. And you can smell like a really intense rosy smell to it. But definitely a great, great alternative to Wicked Love is Éloge du Vert from the house of Les Parfums de Rosine. Let me know if you've tried those fragrances, if you enjoy those two fragrances. I'd like to know, because I don't know, there are some fans of Éloge du Vert out there, but some people that don't like green fragrances might not really like this one. Also, it's a bit vegetal because of the green bell pepper note, so you've got to be into, vegetal notes and green notes and things like that. But a great, great fragrance. And if you don't know Les Parfums de Rosine, all their fragrances utilize rose. Every single fragrance has a rose note in it. And of course here, it's really, really prominent with the green bell pepper note. So that's Eloge de Vert, a great alternative to Wicked Love from the house of Maison Margiela. So finally, it's reversed this time with ROJA Parfums. This is a discontinued ROJA Parfums fragrance. A really, really great, sexy one called Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, this one right here. And once again, we've got a alternative of it from the house of ATHENA. But this time, we've got a more luxurious version of it. So where I said Smoky Plum was around 65 bucks, this bottle, Abha, which is a great alternative to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is a lot more luxurious and expensive smelling. It definitely is also priced higher. But man, if you are a fan of this ROJA, you've got to get your nose on this because they are so, so close. Really, really love the combination of notes. Very, very sexy here. Really great. And it's a weird combination of notes. You've got like oud, strawberry, banana, leather, cotton candy, mandarin, plum, raspberry, apples, vanilla, cacao, musk, and balsam fir. Man, this is one of the best smells ever from ROJA Parfums. I don't know why they discontinued it, but this Abha is such a great alternative for it. It smells really, really sexy. Really, really sexy. Great, great stuff. And I like the kind of dirtiness of the oud with all those kind of sweet, kind of fun, playful notes. It just creates for a very interesting wear and a really great trail as well. So Abha is a great, great alternative to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by the house of ROJA Parfums. I hope you guys get to try that one because it is fantastic. And next, going to the house of By Kilian. This is a fragrance that was selling when I first started reviewing fragrances way back in the early 2010s. It's been discontinued for a while now. This is a Taste of Heaven. This one right here with my little thingy had fallen off, so I've taped it up. So this is a combination of lavender with wormwood. So there's a licoricey vibe in there, along with vanilla, tonka beans, amber, oak moss, patchouli, geranium, bergamot, orange flower. Great, great combination. Really, really delicious fragrance. It's wonderful when they combine the kind of aromatic and herbal notes of lavender with the aromatic and spicy notes of wormwood here, along with the vanilla. I don't have anything that's identical to this, but there's something quite close from the house of Caron. It's Pour un Homme de Caron. It's more lavender and vanilla combo. It's missing the wormwood, but I think it comes pretty close. Just if you're very, very sensitive to the note of wormwood or licorice or absinthe or something like that, you'll notice the differences, but are not that sensitive. I think Pour un Homme de Caron will be a great, great alternative to A Taste of Heaven. So Taste of Heaven, I don't think it was a very popular fragrance. I think the wormwood note, I think is a pretty, what do you call it? Not underrated, but what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily a lot of people enjoy that note. I kind of grew up with this kind of an, ingredient used in foods and cooking and things like that. So I really like the taste of it, and I also like the smell of it. And it's a really, really great fragrance there from Kilian. But yeah, you can do this as a great alternative. It's Pour un Homme de Caron from the house of Caron as a great alternative for A Taste of Heaven from Kilian. And then this fragrance, I believe it's on its way out. It's still available at the discounters, but you might be able to find some out there. But still, if it's gone, because the prices are going to go up. We're going to the house of John VARVATOS. This is Dark Rebel Rider right here. This came out in 2016. It is still selling, as I said, but it is slowly disappearing. So prices are going to start going up. And I don't think there's really good discounts on this anymore. And at one time there were. It's a leather fragrance, a bit animalic with resins and aldehydes and, chocolatey kind of notes and woods and spices and things like that. It's a bit animalic. But a great alternative for that is Commodities leather fragrance, this one right here. So created by the same perfumer, and they launched around the same time. So did he copy himself? I don't know, but they do smell very, very similar. So Commodities leather is a leather fragrance that will definitely be a great alternative for Dark Rebel Rider. And the cool thing is I did a video on this collection of fragrances from Commodity yesterday. They're actually having a sale yesterday and today, and all the fragrances in this collection, including this one, not everything in the store, but the archive collection from Commodity is all at 60% off, and also an additional 15% off with the code PerfumeGuy15. So if you're in the market to find a great leather fragrance that will be a great alternative to Dark Rebel Rider, this will be the right fragrance for you. It's probably with a discount around $50, but either way, Commodities leather is a great, great alternative to the now discontinued Dark Rebel Rider from Jean VARVATOS. And that's the last group of fragrances for you guys. What are your thoughts on these fragrances? And as I said, if you have any other alternatives for these fragrances, I'm trying to get as close to the smell as possible. I was trying to put them together to make sure that they at least have some kind of notes that are similar to the fragrance that we're trying to find an alternative for. But if there is something closer that you know of, do let me know. Put a comment down below. And also let me know, as I said, if you have a favorite fragrance that's been discontinued, what the alternative to it is. Put a comment down so I can find out. But either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. Alright, I've got a bonus option as well for you. One of my favorite designer fragrances, Dior Homme Parfum. And there's a bit of an uncertainty about this fragrance. It's been on the chopping block and it's apparently discontinued. Some databases claim it is. Some say it's still selling. Sometimes you'll see it on the Dior French website. Sometimes it's completely gone. So we don't really know. And recently I mentioned it was discontinued because Wiki Parfum on that website for the fragrance says it's discontinued. So somebody got really uptight and pissed off at me and said, God, I'm spreading bad rumors and lies, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying what I see online. But this is one of my favorite fragrances, Dior Homme Parfum, and a great alternative for it is Harmonious from the house of BOADICEA the Victorious. If you haven't been able to get your hands on Dior Homme Parfum, I know it's really, really challenging. And there's that uncertainty about it. Is it really selling still? Is it discontinued? I'll find out when I go back to France in September in a couple of weeks. And I'll report back and let you know if it's still selling or not. But a great alternative is BOADICEA the Victorious's Harmonious. It's a lot more robust take on Dior Homme Parfum and a bit more makeup-y because Dior Homme Parfum is very lipsticky. Here we've got the lipsticky touch with the fragrance and also a bit of makeup-iness as well. It is very robust, really intense, and also really, really long-lasting version of Dior Homme Parfum. So if you can't find Dior Homme Parfum, I think this will do. This is available at Selfridges. At one time when I bought mine, I was in the UK. It was an exclusive to Selfridges, so you can order it from Selfridges. I don't think it's still an exclusive of Selfridges, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, I think this is a great alternative. It is more expensive. It's $300, but people charge around $300, $400 for a bottle of Dior Homme Parfum. So why fight it when you can get this fairly easily, right? Either way, this is a great alternative for Dior Homme Parfum. This is Harmonious from the house of BOADICEA the Victorious. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.